Okay, so this is a report of a summer holiday trip north of the South Island family trip. We started in Meretoto or Ship Cove, and we went down to Rangiora, where we got the coastal Pacific train back up to Picton before getting the ferry across. One motivation was to have a holiday that did not involve a car at all. The idea was to take the Northern Explorer from Auckland to Wellington, then the ferry, and to get the Northern Explorer back to Auckland eventually. But the Great Train Journeys system doesn't seem to be set up for holiday makers in that sense, perhaps international holiday makers, but not New Zealand ones. And the train was out for part of that time. So we drove down to Wellington, parked our car at a airport parking facility, and got the ferry across before travelling up to Meretoto or Ship Cove the next day. Also, another motivation was that this is the first year that I can remember that the Department of Conservation and the Queen Charlotte Trust have allowed bikes on the first part of the Queen Charlotte track during the summer months. Previously, you could only ride the full Queen Charlotte track up until about the end of November or so. And so there's a bit of an experiment, and we wanted to try that experiment out. So the intent was to ride the Queen Charlotte track, then go over the Mangatapu track and Coppermine tracks to Nelson, spend a bit of time there at Christmas, ride up to the Nelson Lakes National Park using tracks as far as possible, then do the Rainbow Station Road over to Hanmer. That was going to be the highlight of the trip, and utilise back roads as far as possible down to the next train station, which is at Rangiora, before taking the train north. We had to make a few changes on the way. We'd actually planned in the expectation of a rained out day, one in every sort of 3 or 4 days. As it happened, it wasn't quite that bad. It's usually quite unsettled in top of the south around this time of the year, but we didn't get affected by the rain too much. But yeah, enough to change our plans, and we didn't do the Mangatapu, for example, because it was absolutely pouring down that day. But generally, we kept to the plan. You can also see that this trip was characterised by some pretty big hills, particularly the Island Saddle at just under 1,400 metres high. So you go from sea level, and in a day or so get yourself up to the Nelson Lakes area at 700 metres, and then the next day you go all the way up to 1,300 and then 1,400 metres the next day. And Mangatapu was going to be a pretty big hill as well, as you can see at left. So day one, that's when we got a water taxi using Cougar Line out to Ship Cove, biked up to Ship Cove Saddle, and then around some of the smaller sounds that make up Queen Charlotte Sound. And this was tough. It was a really hot day. The path here is really easy for walking, and we've walked it before and had barely noticed the conditions, but it was pretty rough on the bikes. Quite big stones and rocks that held us up just a little bit. And the ferry that we got out to Ship Cove, Meretoto, the water taxi, was quite a bit later than I expected. I remember getting out there pretty early when we took the 8 o'clock water taxi. But by the time we got our bike set up and started climbing up Ship Cove Saddle, which is basically here, it was quite late in the day. And given how slow we were, and we also had a few injuries and illnesses in the group, we just didn't make the same pace that we anticipated. And we got quite a long ways behind. in the family will probably just remember the weka, which is what happened the last time that we were on this track when we walked it about 4 years ago. The weka were very entertaining, and it's good to see them in such large numbers. There's a lot of private influences on the Queen Charlotte track, big lodges and big tourism. We went straight past all that stuff, bypassing the possibility of an ice cream at Furno Lodge and other such bastions of the commercial tourism industry. In fact, I really liked the section after Endeavour Inlet, not Endeavour Inlet, where a lot of that tourist sort of stuff is. The hills were still quite brutally difficult with the amount of rocks on the trail at those points, but much more isolated from other people at that point. And I guess the hikers go a slightly different speed than the bikers, and so you can get a little bit of separation there. It was our intent to go all the way through to Cowshed Bay, but by late in the day it was clear we just weren't going to make it, and both adults in the party were feeling a little bit unwell, so we stopped at Camp Bay, pictured here, and put our tent up for the night.